once said, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerdy Optometrist, a podcast channel for all things optometry. And this is your host, Ukti Vora. Today, we have an incredible leader who is actually empowering all of us for years in the eye care industry. And it's a pleasure to sit across with him and discuss and learn a lot about his motivation, his journey, and some more insights about his personality as well. But before I go into the introduction, I would want to do a huge shout out to Eye and Ear for supporting this episode. I'm sure many of us are aware how eye care and ear care can go hand in hand. And Eye and Ear now offers a solution, just like prescribing, reading glasses. Similarly, you can offer hearing aids to the patients. To learn more about it, you can check out the description below. So many of us already know Dr. Alan Glazier. He definitely is a celebrity in the eye care industry. He needs no introduction, but just as a formality, I'm going to give a brief introduction about his journey. He's the founder and visionary behind ODs on Facebook, the eye care industry's largest and highly engaged eye care organization. Trust me, while we all struggle on getting few thousand followers, he has 44,000 members in these groups, and not just there, they're all actively involved in engaging in conversations. He's a founder of Shady Cove Eye and Vision Care in Rockville, Maryland, and a partner business development executive in Kepler Vision. In 2019, he was honored as commencement speaker at the New England College of Optometry and awarded a presidential medal. In 2021, when we were all struggling to, going through this whole pandemic, he was tied at number 2 on Newsweek's list of America's best eye doctors. And in the same year, he was presented with American Optometric Association's Social Media Advocacy Award. Trust me, many millennials are still struggling how to use social media while he's getting awards on, how to advocate it. He's presented over 100 lectures on clinical and practice management, authored 2 books, and wrote over 50 journal articles. I have no idea how he's managing to do so, but I'm sure we'll learn more about it in the episode. Not just that, he's been interviewed by CNN, NBC, CBS, Entrepreneur Magazine, and he is the father of 2 amazing boys. With this short, brief introduction, a warm welcome, Dr. Allen, to this episode, and welcome to the Nerdy family.
And thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. So I'm going to start with my favorite question: that how did you bump into optometry? Was it an accident, or did you already know you want to be an optometrist?
It's complicated, but I'll make it as simple as I can. My father was an optometrist,
Okay.
but because of that, I didn't want to become an optometrist. You know how you are when you're that age, and I wanted to be a vascular surgeon. Then I figured out how long that would take, and to my young mind, young 20s, being in your middle 30s before you actually were on your own was it was sounded very old. So I took a year off, and I was living around the house with my parents, and I happened to notice that my father was very happy. And a lot of my friends' parents weren't happy with what they did. And so as the first time I probably noticed that, and he was super happy. And so I ultimately decided optometry was a great career because it was medical. We could treat with medicine. And if I could be half as happy as my father was, it would probably be a very valuable and great career. And turned out to be that way.
Absolutely. I'm sure anybody who is bumped, you actually had a background. I know many people or many guests I have interviewed, they're like me who bumped into this profession, and we have loved the opportunity that optometry has given us for sure. But good to know how you started off not being part of optometry and now you are a superstar in the community.
Well, actually, I really was, because my father was very active in the associations, and there were optometry meetings at our house, and I knew all his optometry friends. So I was around it, and I was
Mhm.
exposed to it. I even worked at his office as a teenager. So I wouldn't say that I bumped into it in any way, but I didn't think that was where what my path would take me, and it did.
Wonderful. So I know I did give a brief introduction, but there are a couple of other things which I'm aware that you're doing. In 2020, you were appointed as the board of trustee for NECO. You are an inventor of, 7 issued patents and 4 patents application in computer science and ophthalmology. You also sit on corporate boards inside and outside the industry. You also organize fundraisers and have already raised over $125,000 in eye care related to charity causes. I don't know how you manage all these roles and what is your motivation behind it. How do you manage all this thing together?
Well, thank you. You're giving me more credit than is due. I didn't do all that last week. I did it over a long career. So so it's spread out. And some of the things in that list I don't have to do anymore, and some I'm still doing. And some of them were just honors and awards, which were easy to accept. Thank goodness. Very fortunate that way. I I keep myself busy. If I'm not busy, I'm going crazy. So, but not lately. In the past 2 years since COVID, I've tried to learn how to be more zen about life and not keep every minute filled and try and live in the moment. And that's been a big focus of mine. But as I was coming up, I was very ambitious, and I really wanted to make a difference in optometry and make a difference for my colleagues and for the industry at some point. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just kind of didn't follow any path. I kind of blazed a trail with some opportunities that came up. For instance, one of the funny things is that I ended up being this social media guy where when I started optometry school, social media didn't exist.
Mhm.
So there was no way you could have planned that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I just saw an opportunity. I was using it to market my practice very intensely, and people started to notice what I was doing and started wanting me to talk about it and write about it and help them do it, marketing wise. And that was kind of my launching pad to getting known out there.
Right. I think that's so true for many of us. Like, we had no idea or expertise that we want to be on social media. I never used Instagram before I started Nerdy Optometrist. I, in fact, wanted to not even have an account on Instagram or, get on a video for whatever reason. But here I am talking to you and doing a video recording. So I'm sure we all start somewhere. But what you highlighted, I think, is so important to have passion and the fact that you wanted to make a difference. You don't need to know the answers when you start, but that whole idea or intention to do something for the community, do your best. I think that is very important for all of us. We're always looking for answers, but it's all about starting somewhere.
And having fun doing it is important as well. If you're not having fun, what's the point?
Absolutely, absolutely. You have nailed it. I mean, since we've started talking, you see that, I'm smiling and you add that fun element into the conversation. So I can totally see, how you focused on fun for sure.
Yes.
So you did definitely did so many roles, and it could be overwhelming, when you're transitioning from one role to another or trying to, even provide something back to the community. What were your major roadblocks throughout this journey? If you had to highlight some or something that you felt was difficult, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It gets a little personal. I don't mind getting a little personal here too. I can think of one or two. The big one though was, but as I told you, my father is an optometrist. He had a small private practice. It was a one doctor, one employee, focused mostly on vision training in a town near where I am now. And when I got out of school, I worked with him 1 or 2 days a week to have the opportunity to work with him and learn from him because he was a tremendous mentor, and he was very well respected, a great clinician, and he loved taking care of children's vision problems. So I learned a lot of that from him. In the meantime, though, like I said, I'm ambitious. I'm an entrepreneur, and I wanted to do my own thing and see what I could do also. So I started a practice about 10 miles away, and I was hustling. I was working some retail jobs to bring in as much money as I could while I did these two things and built the practice up. That was in the end of 1993. In 1995, while I was still in this situation, my father passed away in his sleep. Suddenly, he had no real health problems we were aware of that may have caused it. It was just a shock. And then I had to make the decision whether I was going to purchase his practice from the estate and keep going and run it, and then what would I do with my other practice, because I wasn't in any position to do two things, or I didn't know how at the time. So I ended up purchasing the practice from the estate and trying to merge the two practices, and it was moderately successful. About 40% of the patients from the other practice followed me, and
Mhm.
then I was stuck with a real business that had been around for 30 years, and keeping it going and learning how to do the books and learning how to do everything you need to do in a already established practice. Of course, I knew some of that from opening my own, but this was a much more established business, and that was, I wouldn't call it a setback. It probably was a great opportunity for me to learn and make mistakes and not make them again and grow. And then I grew the practice into what it became, what it is now. And that was a great. So that was, it was a challenge. I don't know if I call it a roadblock, but at the time it sure was a roadblock because I was
Mhm.
left without my mentor, without my support of my father, my parental figure. So that was something else. And after that, I don't recall any real roadblocks. I always think about something that gets in my way as an opportunity to either vault it and keep going, doing things the way I do, or do better.
Mhm.
So I can't really think of anything that comes close to that. But if I do, I'll interject during today's talk.
Wonderful. I think the story that you shared is definitely personal and inspiring because at young age, when you're trying to establish your own practice, it could be overwhelming to now think about two practices. Well, you are, make feeling difficult to even run one. But I have to say, hats off to all the hard work that you have done and the passion that you had. And definitely not to forget the mentorship that your father had, trained you all during your younger age that helped you, stay strong and keep going during those difficult years. But I'm sure, that was just one. I because you can't think of anything right now, I would say that could be one challenge, but rest all is all opportunity, as you mentioned. And I'm glad that you pointed out that it's all about the mindset of thinking how every challenge could be an opportunity versus a roadblock. So I definitely would take that as a pointer for, all my listeners to remember and get inspired from.
Yeah, for people whose personality is glasses half full and the sky is the limit, and that is, something gets in your way, you've got to figure it out. You just, and that's kind of how I am. And then other people who aren't glasses half full people, they may find that's more of a challenge. It may even be too much for them. And so
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, I think there's a huge advantage to being a glasses half full entrepreneur. Sometimes it's even a disadvantage because if you're two glasses half full and everything always looks rosy, then you get disappointed big time. So I'm somewhere in the middle there, but I'm definitely on the glasses half full side, and that helped.
That's wonderful. That's actually a good lesson for all of us to remember and look at things in a positive manner with a lot of opportunities wherever you can see a possibility for sure. Now, you did mention briefly, how social media was not part of your optometry school, or you didn't even know, how to navigate through social media. You did that to promote your practice. But now you are the visionary and the founder of ODs on Facebook. I'm going to go on ODs on Facebook first before we go to fluorescein because I have a lot of questions around fluorescein as well.
Sure.
So tell me what inspired you to start ODs on Facebook?
So I love networking and talking to colleagues and learning from them, from their experience, and sharing and asking questions. And that was done in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, in an online community that was kind of like an old fashioned forum where you had to log in, and there were, like 19,000 optometrists and other people in there having these discussions. But in my opinion, I didn't like the way it was moderated because anything went in there. It was kind of like the Wild West. You could say anything, and even if it was offensive, racist, they would have political discussions in there. And for me, while I like having those conversations with people close to me, the political ones, that is, none of the other ones. I I didn't feel that I wanted to really. I didn't enjoy that part of the banter in the community, and it created a lot of negative energy between the polarization that those kind of conversations can cause. So when Facebook came out, I decided that I would do my own community, and in it, I created guidelines that were everything that I didn't want in my community that were happening in that community. And then I was on the hook to kind of admin it and make sure that happened. But I only invited 40 people, and they were 40 of my closest thought leader or people I admire in the industry, friends, to grow this group. And I didn't understand that they could invite more people. So I went into clinic that day after setting the group and laying down the guidelines. When I came back out a few hours later and looked at Facebook, we had 129 members. I mean, and everybody thought, well, not everybody, but a lot of people who were commenting, this is a great idea. We need this. We need a well moderated community and one that, one that is going to bring something positive to the industry. And that became my mission. So since then, I've added guidelines over time that have been needed, and I've stayed true to the original guidelines. And that is kind of how the community grew, because if you create a space that's safe or they feel generally safe to say what's on their mind, then you'll get greater engagement from them. If they
Right.
feel that their comment is going to be, they're going to get a smart remark or an insult, or somebody who uses the internet to act powerful in ways they don't feel powerful in their regular life, gets a hold of them, that they're going to be embarrassed and they don't want that. So they'll sit off to the sidelines and not communicate. But if you create a safe space, you get more engagement from people out there. And listen, everyone in there is an expert in something. So all of that, all their content, all their comments are expert driven content that drives value for the entire community. The more people that feel marginalized, the less engagement. So I just
Right.
set the goal to make everyone comfortable, have a real inclusive place that didn't handle issues that were outside of optometry, other than having a little fun. But my tagline was, have some fun here, but not at anyone's expense.
Right. That's a very fine line that we need to define, especially in the field of like social media, where people can get insensitive at times. But I really liked how you saw a gap in what was existing, and you thought of using Facebook as a new opportunity to build a community that really talks about the innovator in you, that you always look out for gaps and you're always trying to help the community in the best possible way. I really feel that is an inspirational story, where you just wanted to do like a small community, and now you are with more than 44,000 people in the group, me being one of them. For those who haven't followed or been part of ODs on Facebook, I'll be dropping the link in the description. Make sure you're part of that group. It's definitely worth it. And
Thank you.
while we are on this I thought discussion of Facebook and social media, you have this amazing show called Fluorescing. I would want to know, for those who haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I'll tell you how I felt when I saw the episode. It's a mixture of the late night shows or the comedy shows that we have here in US. We are very familiar with the late night show format, and you being the host and trying to bring optometry, creating it more glamorous. So tell me, what was the story behind the idea, as well as the story behind the name? That's something that I'm really curious to know.
That's great. Thank you for asking that. We had to come up with Odie's on Facebook is a great name, and that's a brand a lot of people know, and never plan on changing it. But because the word Facebook is in there, I don't own that. Like, from a trademark perspective, I really can't use it outside of Facebook. And I have a lot of other social media sites, e-newsletters, a whole bunch of stuff that, when you put them all together, really turn this into a media company, not just one social media site with 45,000 people. So
Right.
I decided I needed a new name, and I'm good friends with Andrew Morgenstern. He's a thought leader and lecturer and really brilliant guy, good friend of mine. He lives close to me geographically, and we were hanging out one night talking about this, and I said, I really need a good name. And Andy's so quick. He came up with it, the fluorescene, but it's a scene of things that you're doing, but we'll tie it to eye care by calling it fluorescene, which is the most commonly used drop in eye care. Almost
Right.
everybody who's in clinical care uses this drop multiple times a day, I'm sure. So it had a familiarity, and it was a play on words, and it described what we did. So I decided to call the overlying company Fluorescene Media.
Mhm.
And then what you're referring to, the show, it started with optometry didn't have a TV show. And one of the things that motivates me, I know this is a question you asked or going to ask later, but what motivates you? And one of the things that motivates me is doing something that nobody's done before. If somebody's done it before, it doesn't really excite me as much. And I realized optometry didn't have a TV show, so I started looking into. It was COVID. I was stuck at home. I decided looking into what it would take to produce a TV show. And in the room I'm in now, I built behind the camera, where you can't see, is a big green screen. And I learned how to produce videos, and I got software and a recording engineer to help me with it. And so we started doing the show, and it was fun. I got to tell you, I love doing it. I stopped because it was so much work. We did about 6 months of them. maybe doing once a week was a little too much, but it was a lot of effort that went into writing it and preparing it and editing it. And I just, again, over time, the amount of work it took just kind of got to me. So I stopped doing it. But the Fluorescein YouTube channel, though, we have all kinds of great content on there, including those 6 months of shows. So yeah, thank you for promoting it. Please, if you go to the channel, hopefully we could put a link up for the
Yeah.
channel because it's got a long name. But please subscribe and enjoy the videos. It would mean a lot to me if I could get some subscriptions on there and also help drive additional content.
Absolutely, yes. I'll be adding that link in the description, and I would definitely highly recommend all of you to subscribe to that channel. And I have to say, I know I had a learning curve just while editing this podcast, but when you talk about a TV show production, and I've seen the videos, it is a very high quality production, and I can only imagine how much of work it would have been, producing it every week. I pretty publish my podcast once every 2 weeks, and I still feel it's overwhelming. So it could be an incredible work, but you've learned it. Did you have any reservations before going into producing something like this? What if it doesn't work out? What if I don't get enough views? It's too much of work, let me not invest so much of time. Or were you just excited to try out this new idea?
I'm sure some of those thoughts went through my head, but my brain doesn't work that way. I had the idea and then I was in 110%, probably a little bit too much because if it didn't work out, I had, a financial investment in all the equipment in the room and everything. But there's no way to go about doing something you want to do halfway. You got to just go all in. So I really didn't approach it with any of those kind of fears. If it didn't work, on to the next thing. And that's kind of how I've approached a lot of my business life. Don't cry over spilled milk.
Mhm.
Try stuff that nobody else has tried, try things they've tried, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, move on to the next thing.
Very inspiring. I feel this is something which many of us feel that, okay, if I've tried, first of all, trying something itself is difficult because you're breaking and coming out of your comfort zone. Second, we overthink about the failure versus the process, where I'm sure you would have enjoyed so much and learned so much more. You interacted with people, and that entire experience was much better than getting those certain likes or views, because that is useful. And then, as you rightly said, like it's not the end of the career or end of the thing. You can always move on to the next thing. I
Right.
feel that's very inspiring for anyone who wants to start something new. As Dr. Allen mentioned, like, just go for it. If it's successful, great. If not, try something different, but always go with your 100% in.
Right.
Now I know you are forward thinking and you are visionary, because you started working on things which does not exist in the eye care community. You are very new in the eye care community. And other thing that I recently saw was, the fact that you were talking about NFTs, which is, while NFT is like completely new into this entire whole world, I feel like many of us don't even understand what that is. And we all struggle with these random words thrown at us of AR, VR, and now metaverse and NFTs. How did all that thing come together, and what was your inspiration behind putting all these technologies and new words into eye care? Tell us a little more about it.
It's funny. Up till just a couple of years ago, I was always up on all that stuff. Everything new, I had to know it, and I had to get on it before somebody else did if I needed to. And that was up until a couple of years ago. So within that time, NFTs started to gain traction and things related to the metaverse and blockchain. And I started to learn about it, but like I said, I got tired of it. I figured maybe I'll leave this to the next generation. And then our company was approached by an industry innovator and friend of mine who runs the company called called Monocool, spelled Monokul. And this is someone who I really trust and a very good friend of mine. And he was getting involved in NFT creation for the
Mhm.
industry and for marketing purposes and for companies on the retail side. And it was really interesting and neat. And we met and we talked about what he was doing. And then someone involved with the company had thought that it would be very cool if we could create some NFTs that added some value to people's experience through our communities.
Mhm.
And the first shot at that was our effort at Vision Expo at our party. Yeah, I thought if we tied it to the party and the event, it would be a really fun, cool kind of giveaway thing, and people really responded well to it. We had over 120 people submit a it was like a raffle kind of
Yeah.
to win an NFT, and then at the next party, those people will get some benefits. We'll have a pre-party for those people where they'll have a little more one-on-one time with me and my team, and we'll try and add additional benefits to the people who won that. And it also was a good way for me to figure out how they really work and what they can be used for and how we might use them in the future. So it was just fun and it was an interesting thing. And this company Monocool, go check them out online and see what they're doing because they're doing it in the eye care industry and it's fantastic.
That's good to know, and I'm so excited to definitely drop that link as well. So do check out. There'll be several links in the description. Everything that you definitely would want to check out. But this whole idea of NFTs in the eye care industry definitely sounds very interesting for me, and that's why I wanted to touch base with you and see what was your experience. And I'm glad you did this entire raffle to bring that into the limelight of our industry as well, because we definitely hear it outside eye care, but whether it's blockchain, whether it's AR, VR, AI, all this is eventually going to impact each and every industry. So I'm glad you introduced us to this world of NFTs and what all can be done within the industry.
Yeah, I look forward to doing more with it too. And I think that there's a lot of hype around it. I think some of the things that they're saying about it are going to happen and they're great, and other things just aren't going to come through. But who knows? We'll have to see what the future of these are.
Absolutely. Who would have thought, we would be sitting and recording and the world will go virtual for 2 years. So definitely a lot of things can happen, with this changing times for sure.
Right.
So we did learn a lot about your journey, your background, but now I'm going to diverge into our fun segment. Just like you mentioned, right? Fun is really important and part of everything that we do. So I do have a quick round of rapid fire, well, where I'll be sharing a few questions, and all I want you is to answer the first response that comes to your mind.
Uh oh. Okay.
It's going to be fun, I promise.
Okay, good.
All right. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
I'll let you know after.
All right, with that, let's go. Tell me about your favorite destination.
Oh, my favorite destination. So we used to go to St. John's, the island in the Caribbean, was a kind of my happy place.
Mhm.
But it got destroyed in a hurricane, which was terrible. So now I guess I would say the Amalfi Coast in Italy would be my now happiest place. Far away.
Amalfi Coast is beautiful for sure.
Really
Uh,
beautiful.
right. Your hobby or something you do in your downtime, nothing related to optometry, something
Oh, my
outside optometry.
my biggest passion is music, and I both listen and play. I haven't played in a long time, but I used to play a lot. I'm going to pick it up again now that my time is opening up, and I love to attend live music. So that's a very big thing. Outside of that, some sports. I like going to the gym. I like skiing very much, and some ball sports. But that's pretty much it.
Wow, that's wonderful. With all this thing, you have so many hobbies and things that you explore. That's really inspiring. Uh, your favorite food or cuisine that you really enjoy?
I'm not saying this just because I'm on with you. This is the truth. But my favorite number one food is Indian food. And my favorite number two food is Korean food. So you could see I have a thing for spice.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
can totally see that. But I'm glad you said Indian food. I know it's home food for me. So yes, definitely Indian food.
I could eat it every day of the year. I'm sure I wouldn't feel as great as I do not eating it every day of the year, but I could. And I've been to India and I've been to Bangalore where I was taken around by somebody who knows the city really well and is well regarded in the city. We went to some of the finer restaurants, so I got to taste things that you could never get where I live. And it was great, a great culinary experience.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, Indian food is definitely very diverse. Every city, every state will have completely different variety of food that we offer in Indian cuisine for sure. And now I know you do interview a lot of guests and celebrities, but if you had to interview a person dead or alive outside the eye care industry, who would that be and what would be the question?
Wow. That's a tough one. Inside or outside the industry, I would probably choose to speak to Albert Einstein.
Mhm. And what would be the question?
Well, I'd, I probably want to have a casual conversation. We know everything about him and his science, and the things that I can't understand that I've studied or looked into now because I was into physics for a while. I'm not going to understand. I wouldn't even try to. But I mean, I just like to get to know the man and talk about what more about what his feelings are about. I'd like to show him how he's been right and what has happened between the time he passed and now, and see his reactions and just get to know him. I think that would be interesting. Also, I think it would be interesting to know Ben Franklin as well.
Mhm. Wonderful. That's interesting. Two very interesting people that you have picked up to know them as a person and not just like the science and the work they have done for sure.
Right.
If we were to write an autobiography about your journey, what would you like the title to be?
Oh my God. Uh, my favorite, I can answer this. My favorite quote by the philosopher Kierkegaard is life is lived forwards, but understood backwards. So maybe that, I don't know.
Okay, all right. And the last question, if you were to change anything in the eye care industry, one thing, what would that be?
I would like to get to convince everyone that they in the US, I'm not sure what this is like elsewhere in the world, but that we don't need vision plans, that the vision plans need us, and
Mhm.
that you can get rid of vision plans and to stop being a slave to the vision plans because they make you feel like you can't do without them. And if you do a really close analysis, you'll find out that you'll actually do better without them. And this is kind of a message I've been putting out there for at least 7, 8 years now, and I think it's a key to seeing our profession be its best, and
Mhm.
that is really what's holding us back.
Got it. And with that, we end our rapid fire, and you did incredibly well. I hope it was fun and not stressful.
Yes, it was fun. It was fun. The book naming thing, yeah, I still have to think about that, but I'll stick with what I said for now.
But that is a good question for you to do something next, right? We would like
Right.
to document your journey and have your book that we could read for sure.
Okay, deal.
Wonderful. So, with that, before I end my episode, I would like you to share one final takeaway message for all my listeners.
Okay, well, uh, I think probably I would start at that quote that I said, which is life is lived forward but understood backward. I want people to know that probably every successful person out there and people who feel they're successful have failed more than they've succeeded to get to where they are. And it's the knowledge, it's the experience, it's the fortitude you accumulate while you're building your career or whatever aspect of your life you're trying to be successful in. And you make mistakes, but ultimately what you learn from those mistakes is what leads to your success at some point. And you can't plan on anything down the road. The path to becoming an optometrist is very well established. That is, you go through education from here to there and you pass your tests, you get your degrees and you're an optometrist. But what happens after that is not a path that is followed. It's a trail that's blazed. And that's why the unknown, you have to be willing to accept things and bring them into your life, try them, try other things if those things didn't work out, and don't cry over spilt milk. Don't be afraid of making those mistakes because ultimately, when you make those early enough in life, those are going to be responsible for you not making the same mistakes in the things that you succeed in. Um, it reminds me of another quote. The poet Robert Frost said famously, "The only way out is through." And we're in this life and we're pushing through it.
Right.
And you're not going to get out of any situation or get to where you want if you let things stand in your way. You just, like I said before, you have to move through. So, um, run like an antelope out of control. That's one of the things I say. Just go for it.
Loved it. Loved all your inspiration of, just go for it. I think that really
Go for it.
summed up this entire episode so well. Thank you once again for your time, for enlightening us by motivating and sharing this inspiring story of how you always have to keep going into your best. For all the listeners, once again, I will be dropping all the links that we discussed during this interview into the description, so do check it out. You can definitely follow me on all the streaming about social media platforms. Make sure to leave a review if you enjoyed this or any of our conversations. And our website also supports Buy Me a Coffee. So if you've enjoyed and if you want to support Nerdy Optometrist, make sure to click and support us by buying a coffee. With that, thank you so much, Dr. Allen, for your time. Really appreciate it. And thank you once again, Ian here, for supporting this episode.
Yes, thank you for having me, and great to talk to everyone, and look forward to meeting all of you at some point.